Hi, this is Ben Baxter with Accent Software. Today I want to walk you through a quick video on parallel routings and what they mean to Business Central and how you can use them to track the production in your facility. So I am in a manufacturing profile. I'm going to the top menu under Product Design, and I'm going to select Routings. And inside the routings, I have a setup for parallel. And so we're going to take a look at that specific routing. And what you'll notice is there's some different fields visible. So I've had to personalize the screen to add the next operation number and the previous operation number. In order to do that, you'll need to come up to your gear and hit the personalize option to add those fields. You can also do the same thing if you configure the profile to display those fields. So why those fields matter is I still have my traditional operation numbers, in this case starting at 5 and going up to 60, but the next operation number and previous operation number is what allows the type of parallel to be selected. And you do have to have parallel selected. If you go ahead and set up these fields, but then you leave it on serial, it'll simply remove all of those changes that you've made and it'll run it in serial. The difference here is when I have operation 5, that's my material prep. It is my first operation. Essentially, we're gathering material. And when that operation is done, 2 operations start at the exact same time. And so operations 20 and 30 are listed in my next operation number. So the Business Central software knows that when the timing works out, it will jump from operation 5 to both 10 and 20 starting at the same time. And you can see in the previous operation, both operations 10 and 20 have operation 5 listed as the previous. So I've marked those two as parallel so you can kind of see it. A real life example of this would be a body assembly and then a lift that is required in order for the people to process that assembly. And so I have to have both the lift available as well as people within my assembly department. So that's an operation where they're using the lift to assemble the product. It will run in full synchronization, meaning the setup times are the same, the run times are the same throughout the entire production process. Now, likewise, I have it jumping from operations 10 and 20 down to operations 30 and 40. So you can see again in the next operation number, both operations 10 and 20, which are running together, will jump to 2 operations, operations 30 and 40, where we have some machining happening and some machine setup required. So this would be like an operator who is going to set up the machine, and then the machine will run on its own. And the reason for that is I have my setup time the same, but as soon as the setup time is done for my personnel who's going to do the setup, they don't have any runtime, meaning they're not involved in the process. They can be on doing the next setup of the next machine. So even though I have 2 operations that start at the same time after the assembly is completed, only one of them is required for the duration of that process. And so my machine setup personnel can be off setting up the next machine. And then after operations 30 and 40 complete, you can see they jump to operation 50, and then 50 is essentially a serial operation. It goes from 50 to 60, and 60 is a serial operation. Now, things to keep in mind when we're talking about parallel routings is that the first operation and the last operation have to be single operations. You cannot start with a dual operation and you cannot finish with a dual operation. So you cannot run parallel for either the start or the end. Other than that, it is exactly like a traditional routing. You can still use routing link codes. You can use all the scrap fields and lot sizes that we talked about in our other video. If you have questions on just routing in general, check out our other video on serial where I go into much more detail about the routing options and fields available to you. So hopefully that helps. Make sure you get your type set to parallel before you start doing your setup, so that you don't lose the work that you get started on. Always test in a sandbox environment. If you have questions, please reach out to the Accent Software support team. We're happy to help you better utilize your environment.